My name is Maralee Burnett. I am your astrologer, back with the messages for the week of July 14th, where we get to see, yes, another Mercury retrograde. And we'll break it all down by sign so you know where you're focusing the work on in your chart over the next 3 weeks. And if you want to make sure you never miss content like this, take a moment and click on that subscribe button. That way you get notification every time I post new content, which is at least weekly, but also daily, because I pull a tarot card every single day and I sprinkle in a little astrology with those messages as well. And I post those to all of my different channels. So make sure you follow me, and that way I can keep you up to date on the crazy year, which is 2025. And it just keeps getting crazier. So again, love it if you follow me. And if you want to work with me, go out to my website, maraleeburnett.com. There you can book a session with me, tarot cards or astrology, and you can get access to all of the written content as well, which I mail out to you before the content applies to you. Like this last week's full moon in Capricorn. If you were a subscriber to my channel, then I sent you out the article associated with that, which includes a breakdown by sign of where you want to be showing up and joining with the energy and doing the work. All right, so that's what we're going to break down today, is understanding the Mercury retrograde work that you have in front of you and the things that you can do to show up and activate it. Take advantage of it. Join with the energy so that it's working with you instead of on you, and it's a much more pleasurable experience. All right. So with that said, as usual, I am pulling up my Astro Gold, and we are going to walk through this day by day, focusing only in on those energies that are most notable. And so we'll get us kicked off here on Monday. And on Monday, we're just going to touch on a few things that have been started in this previous week. So, of course, we have had Uranus shaking things up in the sign of Gemini. So that's the first time that we've seen this energy here since the 40s. And it seems to coincide with every major war that we have experienced throughout history. This is the energy that electrifies opposition, because we're looking at Gemini, which is the twins, right? Two opposing forces, light versus dark. And so this is just the beginning of conflict. Now, does it have to result in war? Maybe not the same wars that we've seen in the past, but we have conflict. So we're just beginning to see that. And I'm still going to work on a webinar here where we can dig into the details of that a little bit more. So look for that announcement coming soon. The other thing that just happened over the previous weekend was Saturn turning retrograde. And you're probably actually watching it on the weekend where it did turn retrograde. So this is the beginning of the review, right? This is the first time that we have seen Saturn move into the sign of Aries in about 29 years. So we're talking 1996 themes that may be showing up for you. Since its entrance here, we've been starting to explore who we are, what we want, and we've been considering what we need to change in order to gain independence for ourselves. And that's Aries energy, the self, first, starting new things. And next to Saturn, and what turned retrograde on July 4th, was the planet Neptune. Neptune in Aries is, again, helping us figure out our dreams and how to pursue them, how to look at where we've been deluding ourselves. And now that both of us has given us the preview of this work as both planets go retrograde, it's time to make some changes. Now, these are slow-moving planets. It takes Neptune about 14 years to move through a sign. And we've just seen the introduction of Neptune in the sign of Aries, and Saturn takes about 2.5 years. Now, I keep saying this is just a preview because of the fact that later this year, both of these planets are also going to dip back into Pisces, where we have to finish the work that's been going on for the last 2.5 years for Saturn, and of course the last 14 for Neptune. And Neptune's been in its home sign, so that work has been even more intense. But it's also internal, right? These outer planets affect us more internally. It's not that we don't see it show up in the outer world, but it's because of the changes that are going on within. Then we see those changes show up in our outer world. So there's lots of drama going on. So this energy is speaking in harmony with this Uranus energy, right? Of conflict and change and surprises, as well as Pluto, which has been retrograde for some time now here in the sign of Aquarius. And as all of these planets go retrograde, except for Uranus, they're going to start to have a stronger connection. They're going to be stirring things up from the past so that they're exposed for us to deal with them. Now, this is a mini triangle of energy that is supportive, but it's also very intense and at times very psychological type of work, considering even psychological warfare going on. Not everybody uses the energy positively, right? We don't have control over that, but we have control over ourselves. So that is a little bit of the roundup of what happened in the weeks prior, and that energy still sits with us as we start on Monday. And as I mentioned, Mercury's about to go retrograde, and it will retrograde here at this 15-degree point. So what we're starting to see, and we have been seeing since this weekend, is Mercury slowing down. And whenever these planets change direction, change signs, they put out more energy. It's like G-force, right? As it's turning a corner. And so you'll feel it. And if you try to rush through this weekend, you will find that things won't go very well. So when Saturn says slow down, you best listen. When Mercury says slow down, you need to travel very carefully. You need to think before you speak. You can literally tell somebody, I need a few minutes to think about my answer before I respond. That's the best way to use this energy. And we're really starting to feel that on Monday. So tune in and pay close attention to it. And helping us tune in will be the moon in the sign of Pisces, where it's very strong. It's a fellow water sign. And it's speaking in harmony with Jupiter, which is, of course, in the moon sign of Cancer. So trust your intuition on Monday to guide you towards the things that you should and should not be doing. All right, so that is Monday. Let's move to Tuesday. And you'll see not much is changing even as we move to Tuesday. As I looked at the month of July, because I write all my articles very early on, I noticed, right, that we have a bit of a lull in the energy and it's not as active. And that's because we're starting all of this retrograde energy. And so we have more time to adapt and work with. So as these planets start to slow down, we have more time to adapt and work with the energy. And that's what we see here on Tuesday. We also see that moon still in the sign of Pisces, speaking with the North Node. And of course, that means speaking with the South Node in opposition and speaking in harmony with the Sun. And the Sun in the previous week, over the weekend in particular, was speaking in harmony strongly. So we're still seeing this energy of fate and destiny showing up and helping us. So again, Monday and Tuesday are really good days to be paying attention to your feelings, following your gut and your intuition, and taking advantage of the help that is showing up for you if you're wanting to make any kind of changes. It's a great time to work with the energy of water in particular because of the fact that we have the water signs being activated at this time. All right, let us move to Wednesday. And again, not much here is changing. So we're not going to spend any time talking on Wednesday. We're going to move us straight to Thursday. And Thursday is the day where Mercury is going to go retrograde. So this will be the most intense day as far as feeling a bit of frustration if you're trying to move things forward. This is not the day to do that. This is the day to slow down and start thinking about what has been showing up for you, or what have you been working on since the end of June, because it was at the 4-degree point where Mercury crossed that we were entering into what we call pre-shadow. And pre-shadow is a preview of the work to come when Mercury turns retrograde. So it's between these 4 and 15 degrees of the sign of Leo that is now going to be under review. And so it's true for the collective. We can look at the storylines since the end of June. And then we can, of course, look at our own lives and what's been showing up for us. Now, Leo is energy that is the lion, right? That's the symbol. A lion is a leader. The lion takes care of its pride. And our pride is part of that Leo energy, being a leader ourselves, standing out. You see a lot of actors and politicians who are performers, right? That have strong Leo energy somewhere in their charts. And you do too. So everybody has Leo energy. Even if you don't have planets in the sign of Leo, you still have Leo energy that occupies one of your houses. I always tell a story when I'm working with people about the houses, and I try to align the story to literal houses. Like, this is your cul-de-sac, and in your cul-de-sac you own 12 houses, and each one of them is decorated differently. They give you a different experience when you visit. Think like Disneyland, and you have 12 different lands, right? And then some of them have permanent occupants, and some of them, in fact all of them, always have people who come to visit but don't stay. Some stay too long, but some move through really quickly. And those that move really quickly would be like Mercury. Mercury and Venus and the moon are the fastest moving energies out there, and so they change our lives quicker. And Mercury then, so we have young, youthful energy. It is fun. It is quick moving. It's quick thinking. It's quick witted. This is about communication. It can also be about transportation. Now, Mercury rules both the signs of Gemini, where of course we have that Uranus influence now, and the sign of Virgo. So those energies and those houses can also be impacted in your chart because of the fact that Mercury is slowing down and going retrograde. Now, this can be a youthful leader. This can be speeches. This can be information that's been shared over the last several weeks that involves children. So there can be lots of conflict. There can be information that is shared and brought to the surface that relates to children. There can be information that's related to leaders. So we have, 3 weeks of reconsidering the things that we consider fun, because this is the 5th house, which rules our heart. And that is what we want to be focused on and working on. Think about the story of the Wizard of Oz, and the lion didn't have courage, right? So he wanted the wizard to give him courage, which he realized he had all along. And so that can be something that we are reviewing, right? Where am I lacking the courage to stand up and lead the way I am meant to somewhere in my life? So there's, of course, a lot of different storylines that can show up for you. But if we keep it simple and we think about literally the way we think, and do our heart and our mind, are they connected? Is there a disconnect there somewhere? Is the words we say connected, or are we roaring like a lion, right? So lots of fun things that we'll break down and look at as I tell you a story for each one of your signs as we go through this breakdown. You'll also notice on this day, there isn't, again, not any big changes, but what we do see that is helping us through this Mercury retrograde is the planet Venus. And remember, I brought up communication, and of course, Venus is in the sign of Gemini. So this work that we each individually have to do is associated with, again, the way we think, how we speak to one another, and being able to see the other side and the story that's there, right? There's two sides to every story. And if we try to make an opinion based on only one side of the story, we're not seeing the big picture. So Venus lends her energy to Mercury throughout this retrograde. And as you think of a snapshot or a birth chart to an event, the energy that's aligned today on Thursday is the energy that becomes a part of this whole next 3 weeks. And as we talked, I mentioned part of all of the pre-shadow work for Mercury was the fact that Uranus went into Gemini, Neptune went retrograde, Saturn went retrograde. We had a full moon in Capricorn. And as Mercury finishes its time in retrograde, we're going to have a new moon in Leo. So that tells me the experience over the next 3 weeks is going to be epic. There's going to be a lot going on. There is a lot that happened over the past 3 weeks. If we think about the big, beautiful bill, and, Leo is about beauty as well, things are not going to go as expected. So let's see what that means for each and every one of you and what your story might be and what you may have to be changing or considering making changes to. So as usual, we get started with the sign of Aries. And Aries, this Leo energy is in alignment with you, right? It's a fellow fire sign. This is your 5th house. So those topics that I brought up that relate to the heart, which can be your children. It could be a romantic partner. It can be the things that you're passionate about. It can be a hobby. So there is something along those lines that you've been considering over the past 3 weeks. And now it's time to dig deeper and get connected to your emotions and your heart instead of just charging forward, and consider making some changes positive, right? Because this is a trine. So there is a big benefit to you reviewing those topics that are related to your heart, and speaking from your heart in particular is going to make a big difference for you over the next 3 weeks. Then we have the sign of Taurus. And Taurus, this for you happens in your 4th house of home and family. So review, redo, remodel, redecorate. Those are great topics. Reconnect to your mother. Those are all things that are possible. And as I mentioned earlier, if you don't want things to suddenly start falling apart around your home, then this is a great time to move things around yourself, to make changes, to make adjustments, to do a remodel. People say, "Oh, I can't do anything new. It's a retrograde." You can do new things related to review or redoing something. It's not brand new if you're going back over something that you've already been working on or planning or thinking about. But always, if you're going to take on a home project, you would take it on very slowly and carefully, and take your time and expect it to go slow. Don't rush. Even though it's okay to do it, you still don't want to rush through it, because this is Mercury, and Mercury is movement. And if our movement is going backwards, that means it's not working the way it normally does, so we have to slow down. That's what you should be doing with your home, Taurus. Next, we have Gemini. So Gemini, this for you is happening in your third house, which, hey, that's great because Gemini is all things third house related, which of course means all things Mercury related, and especially communication, your transportation, your place in the community. So what is it that's been coming up for you over the last 3 weeks? And if you are somebody who's younger and in a leadership role in your community, then there may be something that you're going back over. Now, it may be that you're going back to study something in the next 3 weeks that will help you take on a leadership role in your community, which of course would be really beneficial. And again, you're somebody who's going to pay attention to how you speak with other people, because you don't want to rip somebody's head off because you're so frustrated by their inability to see your side of things. So you're learning how to communicate more effectively, especially in leadership roles over these next 3 weeks. And that also means you could be reconnecting with somebody in your community, friend, possibly, over the next 3 weeks. And then we have Cancer. Cancer's for you, this Leo energy is your second house. Now, depending on your actual chart, the house could be slightly different. We're using whole house signs, but we're going to use this as our general view. And since that second house, Cancer's, is about the money you make, it's about your self-worth. It is also things that give you value, but let's focus in on the money that you make. So again, if you're not doing something that you're really passionate about, that's really connected to your heart, you may be reconsidering the work that you're doing. If you are doing what you love, but things aren't going the way you'd like them to do, then use this next 3 weeks to get connected to your heart center and create what you want within the work that you do so that you're more connected to it. And that connection comes across to other people, which attracts people to want to work with you, and it can attract you to a new job opportunity. So this is the time to go refresh your resume if you're looking for a new job, right? Mercury is about the details and the facts, and it's a good time to sign up to take a course that is all about speaking. Toastmasters, anybody? Good time for learning, right? How to communicate better in leadership roles. Potentially, that means you reconnect with somebody from your past who just might have a job offer for you. And then Leos. This, of course, is in your first house. And the first house has everything to do with your appearance. So this might be a time where you feel inspired to change your looks. And it could just be a time where you are, again, inspired to change how people perceive you through the way that you speak with the knowledge that you have. And it's a really good time to take some kind of a self-help course, to sign up to work with a coach and rebrand yourself. And if you have your own business, it might be a really good time to rebrand your website. Mercury's going to have all of those details. And in the sign of Leo, it's going to help you get and grab attention. So this is a really good time to reinvent yourself, however you present yourself to other people, whether it's physical appearance, time to get in the gym, time to change your wardrobe, or like I mentioned, time to work on that website and make some big changes. That leads us to Virgo. Virgo, this is happening, of course, in your 12th house. And the 12th house is the subconscious mind. So if there's things in there that have been weighing you down, like you've been overly critical of yourself, then use these next 3 weeks to focus on things like hypnosis, counseling, anything that helps you remove limiting beliefs, and again, letting go of those critical tendencies that you have, self-directed or towards other people, that aren't helpful, right? And these are the words that we say to ourselves. It's the words that we say to other people that come off as being overly critical. And that would be a really bad habit that you want to work through and break. Now, for some of you, the 12th house is reconnecting with a health-centered group, right? This is a large institution. It would be a great time to, again, sign up to do some kind of healing work with a large group of people. And some of you might even need to check in and get healthy. All right, that's Virgos. Then we have Libras. Libra, this is work for you in your 11th house of friends and networking groups and the internet, right? These are Aquarian type of energy, we the people. So if you feel disconnected, if you don't feel like you belong, this is great energy to get out and be of service, to volunteer. And as you do that volunteer work on things that you're passionate about, then you can find that you're connecting with new friends, and that really warms your heart and has you feeling really good. And speaking of friends, over the next 3 weeks, if you've been so busy that you're not doing a good job of connecting with friends, especially girlfriends, right, with that Venus influence on Mercury, then it's a good time to make the effort and reconnect with those girlfriends. All right. Then let's move us on to Scorpio. And Scorpio, this is about your career. This is about your reputation. And this is a great time to refocus your energy on, again, what it is that you love, what you're passionate about, as far as the work that you do. And that, again, can be work that's your career and you're paid for. It could be volunteer work, whatever you are involved with. When people see you, they go, oh yeah, that person does ABC. That's your 10th house. But since it is career, and we're talking about leadership with Leo, and we've got Mercury going retrograde there, this is a good time to reconnect with leaders from your past, and to reach out and to network with them. It's a great time, again, to redo your resume. If you're looking for a stronger leadership role, it's a good time to sign up for anything that your company offers as far as leadership skills, or going outside your company and showing that you're willing, to spend the time and money to enhance your own leadership skills. So it can be a really positive time, but again, you have to take it slow and you have to be willing to do the work on yourself, and then your place in the company will rise. 10th house. Then we have you, Sagittarius, and that is your 9th house, which happens to be Sagittarius energy. You're all about this. So this will feel, again, like you're getting back to doing the things that you love, like travel, because it's 9th house. But keep in mind, any trips that you have planned could be difficult. So you got to give yourself a lot of extra time, especially if you're doing foreign travel. And, I always tell people to make sure you pack essentials in your carry-on bag in case your luggage doesn't come with you right away. Just be prepared for, travel, like I said, to be a little more difficult. And those of you with 3rd house or 9th house retrogrades, especially if you're going back home somewhere, for instance, because this is retrograde, it is going to be more intense than you expected, but it can also be a lot of fun because of that Leo influence. This is, again, fire energy. Like you will enjoy it, but because fire has to slow down, don't rush through whatever you're doing. 9th house, foreign people, foreign places, foreign language. It's higher education, higher learning, and it can be reconnecting with a mentor from the past as well. So overall, it should be fun, but just, like I said, take it slow, which I know you don't like to do. Next, we have Capricorn. Capricorn, this is your 8th house. So this is a time, if you've been trying to reinvent yourself, right, because of this 8th house energy, it's now time to really break it down. Get into the details of the work that is needed for you at this time. It also can be a time where you're looking for financing, because 8th house is money that comes to us from other people. Mercury is the details in all of the paperwork that you need to take a much closer look at before you sign on the dotted line. Also, because the 8th house rules intimate relationships, an old lover, Leo, could be trying to reconnect with you from the past, and it might seem fun in the next 3 weeks, but it may not last. So take that very slowly and don't get too attached, and just have fun, but don't expect anything long term unless the two of you have both changed significantly since your last get together. Then we have Aquarius, and Aquarius, for you, this is the 7th house. This is about marriage. This is about commitment. It is about serious relationships overall, whether they're personal or business. And this could be, again, reconnecting with somebody from your past, or it is the perfect time to look at your relationship. If you're not connecting, if there's not enough love, if there's not enough passion, this is the time to make changes to invite that spark back into your relationship. And if you haven't felt like you want a relationship, well, this is the time where that can be inspired by somebody else in your life again. So it's a time again for a new beginning in relationships, but you have to take it really slow, and you have to make changes to what you're expecting, how you're communicating with your partner or a potential partner, and making sure that you are setting healthy boundaries and have clear expectations of what your partner's potential really is. No wearing rose-colored glasses. And last but not least, we have Pisces. And Pisces, for you, if you've been dealing with health issues, especially over the last 3 weeks, then the information you need to resolve that health issue is what you are focused on over the next 3 weeks. And then the 3 weeks following, right, when this Mercury is post shadow, that is when it's going forward after we've learned everything that we need to learn. So this could be another 6 weeks, if it's been health that's been coming up for you, that it's getting resolved, but you got to take it slow. You got to pay attention and look at all of the information and all of the facts, and trust your instincts, right, on this. Don't just take the first answer because it would make it all go away. You really got to dig deep on this over the next 3 weeks to make sure you've got the right solution. And if it's not your health and it's work related, then whatever big project you've been working on the last 3 weeks, now you got to slow down. You've got to make some revisions. Usually when I'm working with people, this is one of the things I tell them, that if you've got a big project and it's going to be Mercury retrograde, come up with options as alternatives. So ahead of time, you're prepared when the client comes back to you and says, I'm not liking this. You go, well, how about this option? And that you've already prepared. And then you've made a big impression because you thought ahead and had options ready for them. That's just some of the things I do if you work with me as an astrology coach versus just getting your future predicted. Okay, so that is all of the work for each of the signs. And of course, we're not even looking at your specific chart, so I don't know for sure what house this happens in for you. It could be the one prior to the one we talked about or the one after. So watch those 3 in a row just to make sure you're kind of covered off on what could be the work that you have. And of course, book a session with me if you want to know for sure. Look at the articles for the month of July for, even more details over the next 3 weeks and into August, of course, because this retrograde won't end until we get to August 11th. I think that's right. Confirming. Yes. So that's a lot of time. This is a little bit longer of a Mercury retrograde. So until we see Mercury come all the way back to 15 degrees, we won't even be out of this. So it's July and August are pretty much wrapped up with this Mercury retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Pluto retrograde, and at the very end of the month, we're also going to add Chiron into that. So it's time to slow down. It's time to heal. It's time to connect with what you love, what your dreams are. And that Leo energy, right, is getting back to something that you love. So wherever this house occurrence is for you, there's something there that you loved in the past, and it's time to reconnect with it and bring it back into the future. And then, like I mentioned, Venus is love, and she's connected with this story with Mercury. So we could even see old lovers reconnecting in the collective as a result of the next 3 weeks work. And then you got to look at your personal planets. So what do you have in your chart around this 15 degrees to be the closest to it? It's the strongest, but you can go back as far as 10 and up to 20, but I think that's pretty wide because Mercury is such a quick energy. But what do you have in your chart in those areas, especially in the sign of Leo? Because that's where the biggest work is going to show up for you. All right, that is what we have for Thursday. Let's move ahead to Friday. So here we go, Friday. You're seeing now Mercury is fully retrograde. We have Venus exactly conjunct on Friday. So this is where we're going to feel the work the strongest on this day. And that way you want to make sure you remember, just write it down. The things that show up that you think don't mean anything, write it down, right? That's a Gemini trait. Working with your hands, writing things down, capturing the information, using your journal, getting back to journaling. If you haven't been journaling, use the next 3 weeks to get back to journaling. And Friday, as this conversation is strong between Venus and Mercury in retrograde, might be a really great day to get that going. All right. Then let's move ahead to Saturday. Saturday, we're starting to see this influence of Mars on the nodes. Now, Mars is your motivation. It's your anger, right? It's your passion. It can be sex, right? And this is getting closer and closer to the nodes. But since we're within this few degree orb, we're starting to see this over the weekend become more intense. This desire to maybe try to reconnect with somebody from your past, South Node, or take action on things that happened in the past to resolve those things from the past in order to move yourself forward. Because, of course, Mars is in opposition with that North Node, where we have faith, where we are connecting to our purpose, where we are healing. Again, that theme's been coming up. And Virgo also is healing. This is healing that's connected to the earth, natural forms of healing. And it is a time where we're ready to take action and heal. And it can just be healing the wounds of the past in order, again, to have a fresh start. So this is starting to pick up. And why it picks up on Saturday is because of the influence of the moon in Taurus. The moon loves Taurus. Feels really good there. All of your senses are stimulated when the moon is in Taurus. You might find these couple of days where you enjoy foods more because, again, even your taste buds are enhanced. But it's also your intuition that is enhanced, and that is guiding you to take the action about maybe karmic debt that you're carrying around. Maybe you've wronged somebody in the past, and this is a good time for you to change that. Also, on Saturday, we have the sun almost done with its sign of Cancer time, and it is in a square, speaking of healing, with Chiron, which again is saying there is some kind of an ego wound. Maybe it's caused by a family member. It could be your mother, and it's time to do the work to end that conflict in some way for you. Let's move on to Sunday. And Sunday is going to give us a bit of a preview of some work that's going to kick off even stronger next week. So we're still seeing all the same things that we've been seeing as far as this mini triangle goes. We've still got the Saturn and Neptune energy still the strongest. They're not exactly conjunct yet, but of course they're still working closely together. This whole week they've been the closest that they can get before being conjunct next year. So their work together has been stronger this entire week. Still talking with Pluto, but what I think will be enlightening on Sunday is the fact that we're now seeing the moon have its first conversation with Uranus that's now entered the sign of Gemini. So there could be some emotional surprises. There could be some positive emotional surprises that go on as a result of the moon having this conversation. There could be big aha moments. There can be things, like I said, that have been hidden and behind the scenes, beneath the surface, that are exposed, that, could help us move forward in some way. We're also seeing a challenge that is starting on Sunday and that will carry us into next week with that Venus in Gemini energy, and this planet is forming a T-square. Now Mars is exact in its connection with the North and South Node, right? Where we're headed, North Node, where we've already been, South Node, the karma from the past, right? There's something about the past that is coming up, and it's creating a tremendous amount of pressure. And there may be a woman or information about women that are at the tipping point of this, and it's karma. Whatever is coming out at this time, it is meant to, and there is some big secret that could be exposed for the collective and in your own life, right? Venus is how you communicate your feelings. It is how you feel about love. It's how you think about love. And it could be you changing your mind about love because you meet somebody that's fated and changes everything for you. It's a pressure, right? And that means that we feel pressure to make a change and do something different. And that pressure is building as we wrap up the week. So let's see what happens. We'll move us on to next week. And as I mentioned, we're seeing on Monday, that is the intensity of whatever this T-square is. And this is Venus, this woman, this information about women is what releases this karma. We'll see what that is. And then we see the sun is at the last degrees of Cancer, which means it's about to move into Leo. And that means we're about to change signs. And whenever the sun's changing signs, of course, there's big changes in store for us. So that is coming up. And I think that new moon in Leo that comes up next week is going to be opposing Pluto. So we definitely have some more power struggles. We the people against new leadership, and it's not going very well. So we'll, of course, break that all down by sign next week and get into more of those details. So I look forward to joining you next week. Thank you for following along. Thank you for commenting, liking, and sharing my work with somebody that you think could gain from this knowledge as well. And remember, no rushing. Got 3 weeks to kind of slow down and get back to doing something that you love in order to enjoy the Mercury retrograde that we have ahead. Now, as a reminder, it's Mercury, it's information. It is your computer. It is the information on your computer. You want to back up your hard drives. You want to make extra copies of anything that's really important. And if you have to sign on the dotted line for anything, you still have to very carefully go over all of the details before you do anything like that. All right, everybody, let me know your questions, your comments, and we will talk again next week. Take care.